gems breaking all the bars. Yo, the crowd's feeling it, energy's alive. Spotlight on the tales where the future arrives. Bass in the air, every story's a spark. Late night on bass, we're light in the dark. Bass night stories on the stage, we vibe. Talk show magic where the chain comes alive. Tokens in the flow, let the legends provide. Late night on bass, we're taking it worldwide.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Late Night on Bass. I am your host, your one, your only, your friend, the DJ in the trenches, but also a podcaster, live streamer. I am your friend, Buildable, back at it today. Today we're excited. We have Mauricio from XMAQUINA. My friend Mauricio, I have one important question. It's probably going to be the most important question I ever ask, anyone will ever ask you, and that is, how are you doing today, my friend?
Amazing. I love the intro. Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm doing really well, actually. It's a nice sunny day. I'm currently in Mérida, Yucatan, so I'm out here visiting family and kind of visiting family, always working, but I can't complain, to be honest. Yeah. What about yourself? How are you?
Good. You know, I got the nanny watching the kids while I work. I'm good. The babies are taken care of. Your boy Bill can produce banger content, especially with you, my friend. So it's always good. I'm here in California. The weather is nice. Can't complain. But number one, first of all, I want to just say congratulations because, you know, I had you on the live stream and you had the Genesis auction that didn't take place, but the Genesis auction the next day after sold out. So I just want to say first and foremost, and we'll get into it, what it was and all that. Just want to say congratulations, my friend. That was very exciting to see.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on that stream. I think it helped to tap into sort of the base community. And we're just getting started. So yeah, appreciate it.
Just getting started is right. So for those that are tuning in, you know, I'm excited about this one because, you know, I talked to all sorts of projects, DeFi, memes, gaming, NFTs. I'm an NFT guy too, but I love talking to projects building the AI space, real builders building in the newest, hottest sector that, in my opinion, AI, it's not just a crypto thing or on-chain Web3 world. Like it's going to transform everything like in society as a whole. Your grandma's like normal life is changing and you're tapping into that. And especially with the robotics component. But I'm excited for this. But Mauricio, for those tuning in, Spotify, YouTube, pods on chain, and they're coming across, you know, Ex Machina for the very, very first time. If you don't mind, tell us, what is Ex Machina?
Yeah, so to break it down in just a couple of sentences, Ex Machina is a decentralized ecosystem, basically democratizing access to the physical AI revolution. So enabling people to crowdfund capital and invest into the companies really building the technologies and the robots of tomorrow, as well with the launchpad part of the ecosystem that works sort of like a segregated portfolio. So you can basically tokenize segregated assets. So we're talking about right now equity into investment into robotics companies. That's one thing. But in the future, as these machines come on chain and can be fractionalized and become yield bearing assets in our everyday life, people should have the access to basically co-own, co-fund them, and distribute everything on chain in a transparent and fair manner.
Interesting. So, yeah, basically robotics and just kind of this AI revolution. You have a DAO component where, you know, that's where money is raised to invest. Is that how it goes? I know there's the Ex Machina DAO and there is the machine economy launchpad. Why don't we actually pull up the site and you can kind of walk us through in depth because it kind of is confusing even to myself. What exactly is the DAO component and what exactly is this machine economy launchpad?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let me pull this up. Let's start. All right, so take us through it. For those that are on Spotify, I urge you guys, please head over to YouTube or on Pods. Actually, we'll have live streaming the website. All right, so decentralized Ex Machina, decentralized access to humanoid robotics and physical AI. First of all, do you think robots are going to kind of look like this? Are they kind of looking like this right now?
Yeah, I think this image was inspired from Figures robot. It's a bit altered and so on for copyright purposes, but a lot of the robots are kind of looking like this. It depends on the company. Like Uptronics got more like a squared, more NASA like spacesuit kind of feel. But yeah, I mean, Optimus and Figure AI's robots are looking, yeah, similar to the one on the homepage.
Wow, it's crazy. It's just crazy how the world's coming. Co-own and
How
co-brand
fast
are
how
uh,
fast is moving, right?
dude. Well, I want to get in towards the end. You know, one of the things about our podcast, my podcast, that I really value is the ability of getting to know the founders and going deeper. And, I want to get your thoughts into, how the world's heading to AI, and, your thoughts on, whether this is good for society or bad, regardless whether we think about it, it's happening. So curious to know your thoughts, but we'll get into that later. Okay. So let's start off with the DAO. The DAO allocates resources for high growth verticals shaping the future of physical AI. Explain. Money comes, DAO raises, and then invests. Is that the simple concept?
Yeah, so we've created this raising model. It's a bit different to your traditional ways of fundraising. So essentially, usually you get projects going to VCs, raising a bunch of capital, then building out products and so on. We did have a small pre-seed round with VC investors, but then since then, we've just been doing on-chain auctions. So essentially, the community and the VCs alike are investing basically on the same terms. And what we do is we've created this dashboard, it's genesis.xmachina.io, where it's similar to an IDO. It's an auction, right? So we have a set price, and you can contribute different tokens. Sometimes we make eligible USDC, we can make eligible Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. And there's a swap rate, and you're essentially swapping your token for our Deus token. And when you swap into that, essentially it's going into the DAO's treasury. And then these are the resources that you as a token holder are then voting and allocating across the humanoid stack, right? So we look at different companies. So when like for gold, the gold rush is a good example, right? A lot of people making money were the ones selling the shovels, not the ones looking for the gold
Infrastructure.
itself.
The infrastructure.
Exactly. So with both, right? Like the humanoid companies are really cool, but we're already taking a look at the entire stack, right? So the humanoid brain, chips, processors, the robotics OS, so the edge and cloud, native operating systems, energy storage, so battery, data capture solutions. So all of this stuff that's going to be really benefit from the rise of robotics. We're kind of looking at it, and we essentially do due diligence, put it up in our forum for discussions. We do short lists of these companies that we're looking at, and then as a DAO, we kind of pick our favorites and then start sourcing deals and so on. And then we have auctions, right? We have these on-chain auctions, we raise funds, and then we allocate them, right? Everything has to go through proper DAO governance, approval, and so on. But essentially, we're building like this index of just robotics. So if you're bullish on like the rise of humanoids, you think they're going to be around, and you think the infrastructure that they're going to be using is going to be kind of more valuable in the next 10 years, then yeah, this is a project to kind of look into. And most of this, the problem now is most of these companies are private, right? All of the value is really captured pre-IPO. And it's very hard for just your everyday investor to be able to access, invest into Uptronic, invest into Figure, into Unitree, into all of these different Engine AI, whatever it might be, all these different companies building really, really impressive technology that's just advancing at an insane pace, right? By the time the retail is able to access this, and after an IPO, it's usually just, I wouldn't say too late, but it's just the upside is just limited at that point. And then we've basically created this DAO to enable a community to come together and allocate into these different companies and not miss the boat, essentially.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I think like the infrastructure play is the right way to do it. Obviously, it's the pick and shovels, because without the pick and shovels, there's no opportunity, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
getting into the brain, getting into that sector is probably under thought of by not smart, sophisticated investors like yourselves, but for the retail public. But then you're able to democratize the process that allows people to get access to these deals, and that's one of the biggest things about crypto and on chain that
Yeah, and it's
I
all
like.
super early. It's all super
Super early,
early.
for
Yeah,
sure.
so we're
Super
coming in at the
early,
ground.
and opportunity. Those are two things that most people don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have. Those that are typically get early are like the sophisticated investors in the traditional route. So now you're democratizing the process. So very cool. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna hit pause. We're gonna edit this part. So I'm just gonna pause. I just had to get my kid something. Be right back. 2 minutes.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, so we talked about the DAO component, how you're able to invest. You said now the premise of the company, you did a seed round, private, a pre-seed with some investors. Talk to us through that process. What was the vision that you shared with them to get them excited about the whole process?
Yeah, it was the same vision. The vision never changed. And it was just to basically democratize access and also the 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 governance and management of machines on chain, right? It's very obvious that crypto and the blockchain rails are much better and much more efficient for machines to transact on and essentially manage on chain. So like imagine if you got like an electric vehicle charging station, right? And it wants to connect to another machine. It should have machine IDs, and these payments should be essentially just done all through connectivity and all through data and all done on chain, right? Doesn't make sense for these machines to essentially be transacting on like traditional payment rails with like have their own Visa bank accounts and so on, right? So it just made total sense. So that was a big thing for us since we were working with other partners like Peak Network and so on, who are working on infrastructure and SDK stacks for these machines. And we were kind of like a complementary part to that stack where we're fractionalizing the assets and allowing people to basically do all of that, bringing the capital on chain. So that's part of the launchpad that we haven't really gone in depth. But imagine you have, let's use a vertical farm just because it's easy, right? An automated vertical farm. There's companies like iFarm, for example, who sell you the hardware, the software, and for a subscription fee, they can actually manage and run the farm themselves. This is how they've managed to become one of the biggest vertical farm operators worldwide. So a community can come in, tokenize or crowdfund capital as a sub-DAO, part of the launchpad. It becomes its own segregated kind of company. Own this asset and then essentially govern what we do, right? So you've basically tokenized, you've created a vertical farm. Now it's earning revenue. You have access to all of its payment gateways, etc. So you know all that is going on. You have the software that's provided by the company, and then you just need the on ramp, right? So there's tools like Bridge.xyz, etc. So you can make transactions directly from fiat, whether it's dollars or euros, whatever it might be, and that gets executed. Basically, it's sent to an IBAN with a tool like Bridge.xyz, which essentially just executes it to a smart contract. So you can preset these APIs, and then you're essentially bringing in money from a machine or an asset on chain, and enabling it to then interact with a smart contract with there never being like a middleman or somebody holding custody of the funds, right? So this was also something that we provide during the launchpad. So that was very interesting to a lot of the investors, and they just seen the potential on like humanoids and so on. We're not really a very VC. It's not really what VCs are looking for, right? Because we're in a way kind of competing with them. But we did manage to raise some funds because of we were early to this space, right? We were building something new. Deep in that sector was taking off. We're not exactly a deep in per se, but we were kind of building within that machine economy realm, and just people aligned with our vision. But it was more innovative investors, right? So some of the investors on our cap table are like Moonrock Capital, Generative Ventures, Fundamental Labs. The VCs really investing into this machine economy sector, so it's kind of like a fit for their kind of strategy. So yeah, that's how we managed to kind of raise is by building, I think, something that hadn't been done before, and trying to solve real problems for machines and infrastructure that is going to come and be part of everyday lives in the coming years.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a testament to what you guys are doing in the vision, because this is, like I said earlier, this is more than just a crypto play. You know, you guys are investing in the real world, things that are going along in the real world. This is a sector that's going to transform the real world. So not just like our little, circle jerk of people in crypto. So I think there's a massive audience eventually that, and you're early, so it makes a lot of sense. So while we're on the concept then of the machine economy and the launchpad, the machine economy launchpad, and how you're talking about sub DAOs and all that stuff, yeah, walk us through this whole launchpad. So we talked about the XMAQUINA DAO, how you're raising, democratizing the process. Now let's take a broader look at the machine economy launchpad. Walk us through that. How does that look?
Yeah, so the machine economy launchpad kind of complements the DAO itself. So we leverage our Genesis auction dashboard, so the spot where we raise funds, people can contribute, so on. So people can raise their own funds like that for a segregated asset or investment, for example. And how this works is essentially just leveraging our entire stack to create this mini sub DAO, which just segregates that asset, right? So if somebody is very bullish on, we can say like an RWA, like the vertical farm, but you can apply that to just another investment. Let's say somebody's very bullish in on Engine AI, which is a robotics company based in China. Somebody can make a proposal. Let's issue a sub DAO for this investment, and then it could leverage our entire thing, our entire tech stack, our governance stack, fundraising platform, and essentially create its own little mini sub DAO, and just govern that one asset. So maybe somebody doesn't want exposure to the entire stack and everything that XMAQUINA is investing into, but they really want exposure to this fleet of machines or this one company. A sub DAO is perfect for that. It basically has to pass through DAO approval, so it goes through due diligence and all of that. But essentially, if it does pass, the builders or the people creating that sub DAO can essentially have their own raise there, raise the capital and make the investment or the allocation, and then that is governed by its own token holders. So this is not like we wouldn't be using the Ex Machina like the Deus token or anything. This is actually for now a non-transferable token. So you're essentially just locked into that investment, but you can govern it, the exit, and so on with the other holders. So let's say it's 100 people that invested into this company. Maybe in like 2 3 years there's an opportunity to exit, whatever it might be. They could say, okay, this is exit. They have a vote, and then they could properly dissolve or exit the position. And this is all done with our same legal framework and so on. So essentially, they don't have to set up a new entity. It all gets leveraged by us. And this is basically a for-profit DAO LLC. So we've basically taken care of all the complexities for people to be able to do this, set up different legal entities to make it all possible. So the entire structure from the DAO to the sub DAO has 3 legal entities. And that was one of the hardest things, right? Like getting the right legal setup to make this
Yeah.
possible. And what it came down to really in the end was sufficient decentralization, right? So as long as you're decentralized enough where there's no team making all the decisions, um, no one person or entity controlling all of the things, then this was kind of made possible by that. So yeah, we worked with some very solid legal teams, Aram Law. Just shout out to them because they really helped the process. But yeah, so that was one of the biggest hurdles. But now we've managed to have this launch pad, and we'll be launching it soon after TGE as well for these segregated assets.
So everything is done through your platform. So once the subs out is created, they can raise directly. Like they don't have to like go off site. Like everything is done in your guys's ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, we could like you could brand, we could like maybe brand the front end if they want to do it so for like the one asset or so on, change some things, but they don't have to like build anything themselves besides just like the giving the requirements of the investment, breaking it down, passing that due diligence process, and then everything else is pretty much ready
Wow.
for them to
That's
use.
like it's basically turnkey ready. And you're saying you haven't launched that yet because I was going to ask, has there been any sub DAOs that have been created so far?
Not yet. So we haven't launched that just because we're focusing on the main DAO now, having a good TGE, launching all of that, and this will be like a follow up, right? So then we can have those segregated assets. So that'll happen, yeah, soon after our TGE. Aiming for quarter 3 for TGE, by the way. Just so you can think maybe quarter 4 will be a realistic timeline for the launchpad.
Excellent. And now I want to talk real quick. I do want to talk about your community, but I also want to talk about the Deuce token. Explain the role of the Deuce token in your Ex Machina ecosystem.
Yeah, so the Deus token is essentially governing everything that's happening, right? And by default, it's kind of tied to the assets under management, right? And it's just making all of the decision making. So when a sub DAO gets issued, there's a fee that goes to the DAO that gets managed as well. If there's an exit opportunity, we can vote on how we allocate the resources. Let's say we've invested into Uptronic, right? In like a year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be. There's an exit opportunity. The funds could basically flow back into the DAO, and then the the token holders can kind of vote on what we do with it, right?
Mhm.
We can do burns, we could do just reallocate it into more investments. It's essentially up for governance. So it's just really managing the entire treasury and deciding what we do with the funds. Ideal situation would be to just acquire, basically acquire more and more and more assets, right? Um, then rather than like burn, or because that's just short term, right? If
Mhm.
you're like doing just a short term burn, then people buy for the burn, it goes up, etc. But if you're building this like really large portfolio of like solid assets that are going to be growing over time, and in the future it could be fleets of machines that are just yield bearing assets and so on. You can just kind of keep growing this, and by default, by the market cap growing, the assets under management growing, it kind of takes like the token's value with it, right? Just because of the direct correlation. So essentially, it's just full governance of the entire ecosystem and its assets.
Very cool. And talk to me about, I guess, like, and again, before we go into which I want to turn in the next conversation, but like, what is the community like right now? Ex Machina, you guys have, you guys are new, but obviously you've raised the money, and that must have been a huge thing when you guys were able to, sell out so fast. Talk to me, what is the vibes in your community like? Because at the end of the day, you know, it's important. I know whether you're DeFi project, AI project, a meme project, whatever. Nothing matters in this space unless you have a solid community who is believing you. You can have the best product in the world, but if you fade your community on chain, you're going to fail. That's strictly the case. So talk to us. What does the Ex Machina community look like?
It's actually like I would say it's like one of the smartest communities I've been a part of.
Yeah.
Like people are really into this sector of robotics. They really understand. They like read all of our blogs, like really engaged. Like we put a lot of educational content and just informative content on our website too. If you click on the news tab, you can kind of see a lot of the stuff we put out. So yeah, our community is like growing quite a bit, engaging a lot. Obviously, they came through big on our last auction, so it's definitely growing. I think we have close to 2,000 token holders, maybe a little bit less. I have to check the exact number, but that's definitely growing. We have another auction coming in the next month. Um, and like Discord, honestly, is super busy. Like right now, actually, we have our first DAO proposal live. The vote starts tomorrow. Um, so people are actually claiming their tokens. It's not TGE yet, but what we've enabled is some tokens from the Genesis auction are actually liquid at TGE. We've enabled people to claim these, but they remain non-transferable, so you can't trade it. It's not on any markets. You can't really do anything besides vote. But what this allows us to kick off the full DAO itself. And I think now we're getting a lot more engagement because people are really participating. Like the full ecosystem is taking off. We have our DAO portal launching where you can track all the proposals. So we'll be adding staking there once we TG. You can have all of the treasury overview. You can track the DAO's wallet, so you can see where the funds actually are, where it moves to when we make an investment, etc. So it's like all super transparent and on chain. And I think I'm really happy with the growth we've seen in our community. Obviously, um, I hope to keep growing. I hope we keep up this trajectory that we're on. But as it stands right now, yeah, I would like to repeat that again. I think we have a super smart community, which is super nice to see. They ask really great questions, and everybody's engaged, right, on the forums when we're
Yeah.
discussing these different investments and deals that we have going on. So, yeah, I encourage anybody who's interested in the project to jump in our Discord and check it out and join other like-minded people bullish on robots.
Yeah, I think the fact that you can get engagement, that's the name of the game with any project on building on chain. If you get them to feel engaged, participate, you're gonna have a loyal community. So it's good to see. All right, so
And letting them
Mauricio.
in.
Oh, what's
So
up?
and
Sorry.
letting them in early as well, right? Making
Absolutely.
sure they're able to participate from the start and they're not coming in like at your TG listing of like 1 billion FTV or something like that.
No,
So
for sure.
ensuring that they're part of the growth and the way to TGE and actually having a word in everything you say. So that's also a nice thing about having that DAO structure, right? Like their opinion matters.
Absolutely. Now, Mauricio, I want to turn to you. I want to get to know you a little bit more before we wrap things up. We got a little bit of time. So obviously you, my friend, chose to build into this AI world. What's your experience in AI and in crypto, actually?
Yeah, so myself, my most of my experience is actually in crypto. So been working, yeah, almost like 7 years, mostly leading ecosystems. So growth was like my bread and butter. And before starting XMAQUINA, I spent a couple of years leading an ecosystem called Peak Network. It's a machine economy L1, and essentially, I just got really into this whole. Uh, Basically deepen, but if you will, it's like IoT and just hardware coming together with blockchain and what is possible
For those
there.
that don't know what DPIN is, what exactly does that stand for?
Decentralized, sorry, decentralized physical infrastructure networks. So that's DeepIN. And now there's this new term called DePi, which is decentralized physical AI. We're technically in that sector ourselves. It's quite new though. But yeah, it's essentially the machine economy, right? Like machines on chain. And started working there for 2 years, and that's where I really started to look more into AI, robotics, and this technology that was obviously going to go physical, right? We've seen the boom with AI, and for me and my co-founder, it was so obvious that it's like, okay, like this AI is just basically improving at an insane speed.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time till this intelligence goes into like hardware, right, and physical, and then we start looking like, where is this gonna go? And then like robotics just seems so obvious to us, humanoids as well, just because it just fits perfectly. Like you don't have to adapt the world to it, right? It's just ready to go, and the shortage in labor, it just made so much sense to us, and then we just decided to go all in robotics, and been doing like a lot of R&D research for some time, and then started Ex Machina. So yeah, that's a quick background of what I've been up to the last few years.
You've been in the trenches, so you saw what most people didn't see. That's how being early helps, and you've been in crypto, so that was the two. So now you decided to focus on this, and you could tell you're very passionate about what you're building. You're very knowledgeable about it. Where does this passion lie in the sense of physical AI? And what makes you so excited about building Ex Machina and also this sector that you're specifically targeting? What about it gets you up and makes you feel like, you know what, this is what I want to dedicate my working life to?
Mm, yeah, like you said, I'm very passionate about it. I think it's amazing what could be accomplished with the adoption of robots and AI. But there's always like the two sides, right? Either you take the decentralized approach, the open source approach, where everybody can benefit from it, or we take the centralized approach where only a handful of entities kind of control everything, and then we go into like universal basic income and so on. So we had the idea of like building on the decentralized side of things, democratizing this to people, opening it up to a bigger amount of people. Um, and then have the idea of like creating something more like universal basic ownership, right? So imagine these machines come into your community's everyday life. Imagine being able to just own part of that revenue um, that's being generated by these machines, even if you are being replaced by it. At least just own the assets that are replacing you, and then have
Mm,
like this fruitful and better outcome, you know. And I think Web3 is really the only alternative that we have to the centralized alternative. So
I
that's
think,
kind of why.
yeah, no, I think it makes sense. And like I said, with these podcasts, and shout out to you for joining them, that's what people are going to want to see, especially sophisticated investors. They're going to want to know the people's why. We've moved farther from like a industry where you can be like completely anonymous. Well, you could be anonymous, but when you're getting into like a big infrastructure play and you're actually targeting real world stuff, I think being, out there public like you, it leads to a lot of transparency and trust. So let me ask you a couple more questions, Mauricio, because I'm very curious about you. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. If you're in the space building, that we're taking the path that's not traditional. And one of the things I like to do is talk to other entrepreneurs and get their advice because my listeners, whether you're a trader, a degen, whatever, you're trying to make a better life for your loved ones and yourselves. But the road to greatness and success is not a straight path. There's ups and downs, and as you guarantee you've experienced. So let me ask you this, Mauricio: what has been the hardest part in your journey so far leading Ex Machina, and how did you overcome it?
Oof, this is a good question. I feel like if I answer this, that the answer might be outdated in like a couple of weeks. There's always a new problem to solve,
Right.
you know? Um, what is the biggest so far? This is a good question. I need to think a bit about it. I mean, up until now, I think, yeah, I think I got an answer for you. I think most people always told us we were too early until
Mm,
about 6 months ago. So investors, people looking at what we were building, they're all saying, nah, it's too early. Robots, nah, maybe like 2 years and so on. So everybody just always told us we were too early. Um, and it was hard to raise. It was hard to do everything. And then kind of like robotics just took off, right? And people are realizing how fast things are moving. So I think that the lesson we learned here is just like stay true to your vision, what you believe in, and even if everybody tells you no, 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 if you're sure, you're certain what you're building has value, just keep at it and don't quit because like everything can change in a matter of a couple of months. And yeah, that's sort of what we're kind of seeing right now. Robotics is becoming a hot topic, and now you're seeing projects pivot to robots or like
yeah.
infrastructure for robots, but they actually haven't been building in this real sector yet. I think when we started, we were like really the first robotics crypto. Um, but yeah, so basically that we it felt like we were too early, and we just kept at it. And luckily, it doesn't feel like we were too early so much anymore. I think it's starting to pick up, and people are starting to connect and resonate with what we're trying to build, and they're seeing the value now.
I think that's a great answer. I think perseverance. That's something where you don't take no as like a rejection or a setback. You just still truck along, And so for you, people thought you were too early, and they probably passed on, investing. But you as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to, if you believe in what you're believing, you just keep going forward, and eventually your time will come. And that's called perseverance, and I think that's very and thick skin, and I think that's extremely important. So kudos to you. My last question to you, Mauricio, before we end things: you're on base now. You're excited about it. You're trying to get to know the people in the ecosystem. What excites you the most about base, and why are you targeting launching Ex Machina on base?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really vibrant ecosystem. Like all of the tooling is amazing. Like we we're like a multi-chain project, so we like raised our first auction in another chain, and we'll probably do other chains as well. Like we're not just secluded to one blockchain. But what was impressive on base was like the infrastructure and the tooling is so the UI is the cleanest UI I've seen in crypto so far, right? Like the base team really went beyond what you usually see on wallets. Like the Coinbase wallet is super interactive. Like what they're using as a safe, it's like the sponsored transactions, the reaction time of like all of the it's just crazy how like finally feeling like we're crossing that bridge of like when the UI is just not there, and like your normal everyday people can't use crypto anymore. I feel like Base is the chain doing the best job at that, and really bringing that. It's actually solving all those UI that we've had not very useful or not very interactive in the past. And I think that's the most exciting thing about Base, and obviously a very vibrant community. And I really also enjoy the fact that they didn't even have to launch a token, right? They just said we're just
Yeah,
going to use Ethereum, and it's also shows like vote of confidence for the chain and their long term vision. It's not about a token and making money. It's about like building infrastructure for the masses and for mass adoption of crypto, and that's really what it feels like. So that's like
yeah.
kind of the summary.
Well, welcome. We're excited to have you of your a project of your caliber on base, and I look forward to getting to know you more and the project. Mauricio, any last words that you have for the audience tuning in?
No, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys are interested in learning more, like I said, we have our blogs, and then also just jump in the Discord. I'm always in there. I'm quite active, so we can chat, answer any questions you may have. We have community calls as well. You can join, ask questions in person. Yeah, thanks for welcoming me to the base ecosystem. Looking forward to building some awesome stuff over the coming years.
Let's go, Mauricio. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks again for having us.
Appreciate you, everyone. If you're on Spotify, head over to YouTube. We're going to make sure to have XMAQUINA's links in the description, their website, their X information. Of course, we'll have late on basis information. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. It's free, helps me produce more banger content on the regular. Until next time, everyone, this has been Buildable on Late Night on Base with Mauricio from XMAQUINA. See you guys next time.